Hey y'all, my name is Yvette and welcome to my channel. This is going to be a vlog where I try to read as many Libro FM audiobooks as I can in 1 week. I feel like I say this all the time, but most of the books I read come from the library, and that has turned into me ignoring all of the books I already own, including the audiobooks. So this week I am suspending all of my library holds and just focusing on the audiobooks that I've gotten from Libro FM. If you don't know, Libro FM is kind of like Audible, except Audible is about 4 cents cheaper a month than Libro FM and it has a bigger selection. But Libro FM supports independent bookstores and their app is a lot more user-friendly. Libro FM also has this influencer ALC program where if you're part of the program you get a handful of free audiobooks every month, and I'm a part of that program and they have some really good ass selections in this program. I have done shit all to promote Libro FM even though I've gotten quite a few free audiobooks from them, and like I've never heard a peep from them about maybe kicking me off the program or even them pushing me to promote Libro FM anymore. And I haven't been really active on booktube for the last 6 months, so that's really cool though. So yeah, here's me saying that Libro FM is pretty cool, and if you like audiobooks, consider signing up with my code. That's gonna be my whole spiel on Libro FM, and the long way of saying that all the books I'm going to be reading this week are books that I got as a part of this program. There are 23 audiobooks that I haven't listened to yet, and I'm not sure which ones I'm gonna listen to this week, but I am gonna talk right now about the ones I am most excited to get to. So for a quick rundown, the first one is going to be At Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book in a romance series, and I've read the first two. They are amazing, and I can't believe that they got the third one as a part of this program. And then we have Women and Other Monsters by Jess Zimmerman and Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. And when I saw that this was one of the selections for March, I believe, I got so freaking excited. I can't believe that I have an audiobook of this. So there's also Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet by Laken Zaya Kemp, and I don't know what this one is about. I know it's a Latinx YA contemporary, and I know specifically the author is a Tejana, so excited to get to that one too. There's another romance, First Comes Like by Alicia Rai. Also The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. I'm not sure what this one is about either, but I know Roxane Gay recently gave it 5 stars and she was like raving about it on Twitter, so that one. There's The Mermaid from Jeju by Sumi Han. There's The Dead Are Arising by Leah Payne and Tamara Payne, which is a Malcolm X biography. There's Raybearer by Jordan Ufueko, and Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse, which I've been meaning to get to for months and months and months now, so hopefully I can get to that one this week. And the last book that I am most excited about is The Conductors by Nicole Glover, which I actually started yesterday, and I am 72% done with the audiobook. This is a fantasy adult novel about a couple who are conductors in the Underground Railroad, and now that the Civil War is over, they're living in Philadelphia, and people come to them with problems to solve, and they solve them. One of their friends has just turned up dead with a really dangerous sigil carved onto his body, and they're investigating his death. This book is very okay so far. I don't hate it, it's not bad, but I also don't love it, and I'm kind of having a hard time paying attention to it. But I will say that I really like the magic system that this uses and how it plays into like the politics. The main character uses celestial magic, which takes like star patterns like the Leo or the Pegasus, and she uses them to create sigils that make magic happen. And society sees this kind of magic as inferior, whereas the white people are sorcerers and they use wands, and black people are forbidden from using wands. And I think the whole politics of who can use what kind of magic and the perceptions that each magic comes with is really interesting. I am probably gonna finish this book tonight while I play my Nintendo Switch. I've gotten really into Pokemon Sword lately, so I'm just gonna like mindlessly train my Pokemon while I listen to this. There are a few things happening for me this week, so hopefully I will have something to vlog about. Tomorrow is my birthday, and I'm also getting a haircut this week, and that might not sound like a big deal, but I haven't cut my hair since like 2019, and I am ready to chop all of this off. I'm like so done with my hair. So yeah, I am off to read.
Tuviera de frente en la mente, te la you're fast asleep. You stay on the phone just to hear me breathe.
It is now the third day of this vlog. Yesterday was my birthday, which is why I had this huge happy birthday balloon behind me, blocking out the mess behind it, and it was a pretty good birthday. And today I chopped off all of my hair. I am so relieved, so happy that I'm not going to be spending so long washing my hair anymore. I've never had hair this short before. I think the shortest I've gone is like right here, maybe right here, a little bit below my shoulder. So this is really new and I can't stop shaking my head. But as for my reading, I have finished 2 books so far. I finished The Conductors the other day, and yesterday I started and finished Actor Age Eve Brown. Starting off with The Conductors, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was a very good and solid choice for Libro FM, but it wasn't my favorite. The plot was good, the magic system, which I touched on the other day, was really interesting, and I love the world building and how like this magic had an effect on history as we know it. But I had a hard time keeping track of characters and like who was who, which made it harder to get attached to them. And there were some parts of the book that really grabbed my attention, but for the most part, it didn't. And the parts that tended to have my attention more were actually the flashback scenes where the main character was the conductor in the Underground Railroad. And I found those parts to be a little more actiony, and it showed off the magic a lot more. Like you could really see what celestial magic was capable of. But something that I really appreciate that this novel did is that it really dug into family separation of enslaved people both before and after the Civil War, and like in the aftermath trying to reunite with families and whether they succeeded or failed and the different ways that that could look like. So yeah, I think this book did a lot of things really well and I would recommend it, but when I was reading it, my attention kept drifting off. The next book I finished was Actor Age by Eve Brown, and I really love that book. The whole time I was reading it, I just kept thinking like, this is so funny, this is so charming. And I think the last time I felt that way about a book was I can't remember the name, but it's a spy polyamorous romance novel by Katrina Jackson. I'll put it up on the screen. This book had one of my favorite character types to read about in romance, and that is the hot mess. There is something to be said about characters who do a thing and do it well, and they have all their shit together and they're competent as fuck, and I really love those characters too, but hot messes just touch me in a different way. And Eve Brown is a complete hot mess. She is self-aware and hilarious, but above all, she is trying. And that combination of being a hot mess, but also being earnest and good is just my kind of character. And this is also a romance of opposites. Like Eve's male love interest, he is uptight and anal, and seeing him kind of go weak for Eve's free spirit and seeing him unclench and stumble over himself and be like, what the fuck is happening, is so delightful. The only thing about this book that was kind of for me was the third act conflict. It made sense for the characters, but as a reader I was really frustrated with it. But besides that, I really love this book. 4 out of 5 stars. I also started another book this morning and I got 25% of the way through it, and that is Women and Other Monsters, Building a New Mythology by Jess Zimmerman. It is a non-fiction book. It kind of reads like a series of essays about monster women and mythology and the effect that that has had on society and the way we look at things, and so far so good. So yeah, that is going to be it for this update. I haven't really read that much today because I've been distracted by the new hair, but hopefully maybe I can finish this book today and then start another one tomorrow, or I'll finish this one tomorrow.
Pumbaa, are you nuts?
Oh, it's going down on. I've been here since Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, got nowhere to go. I'ma put it down on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, got nowhere to go. Yeah, I'ma put it down on. You know it, I know it, got nowhere to go. And all I know is for sure is you gon' lock the door. We gon' get right, bottles all night. Give you this vibe and I hope you don't mind. All I got's one thing on my mind. We ain't gon' have to go outside. I'ma do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, got nowhere to go. Yeah, I'ma put it down. You can let me know if it's a problem, but it ain't. Cause to be honest, half the time the world is getting in the way. So now you got me, now attention undivided. Roll it up and light it, cause I know you like to smoke. We paper planing like a pilot, just Just in case you wanna drink, I got the 1942. Cause we be busy, there's a couple things that we don't get to do. So now we here, so what it do? I got the liquor, got the food, I got the weed, I got a Zen in case you tripping about the news. And we could eat her, snack size dessert. Baby girl, a keeper, panties in a t-shirt. Whole world seen her, baby, do your research. Hating bitches mad cause they man is just a B word. Man is just a B word. Cause your man is just a B word. Your man is just a B word. Your man is just a B word. I said your man is just a B word. And your ex is a B word. Bitch. And that's why now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I got nowhere to go, yeah. And I hope that you don't mind. All I got is one thing on my mind. You gon' have to catch this vibe. Cause bitch, we can go outside. Yeah, I hope that you don't mind. All I got is one thing on my mind. You gon' have to catch this vibe. Cause bitch, we can go outside, yeah.
Hey y'all, so it's been about 2 weeks since I ended my week of reading Libro FM audiobooks, but during that week that I was doing this, I finished 2 more books. The first of them was Women and Other Monsters by Jez Zimmerman, and I have very mixed feelings about it. It was by far the shortest audiobook that I read that week, but it took me 3 days to finish it, so like practically half the week. So this book was part analyzing ancient monsters and part memoir, and it was about how women are made out to be monsters in 1,000 different ways. About how every step you are farther away from the white, thin, able-bodied, pretty ideal of what women should be, you become a little bit more monstrous, and how instead of letting that bring you down, you can derive power from that, your monstrousness. Objectively, this was a good book. There was a lot of commentary about how ugliness and fatness is demonized in women, and there's a lot of things I agreed with and things that I thought were interesting. But there were quite a few times when I was reading this that I got a white feminist girl boss vibe, and if you were to ask me to point and say where, nothing I could point out would be very wrong or offensive. It's just that vibe was there. And all the talk about how I am a monster and I am more powerful for it reminded me of how white feminists like to say we are the daughters of the witches that you cannot burn, like that nonsense. It was kind of the same energy. And how the author talked about her attraction to women was weird. And like there are good kinds of weird, like there's good weird and quirky weird, and I don't understand what you're doing but you seem like you love it and I'm rooting for you kind of weird. And then there's the weird like when someone says something it's just not quite right, and this was that kind of weird. She talked about how we're like as a society made to view women as desirable and women are beautiful, so of course she's attracted to women, but she's never been with a woman and she's married to a man, so she's never going to be with a woman, so she doesn't label herself as queer and maybe doesn't feel like she can label herself as queer. And like that is a very valid experience because your queerness is not determined by who your partner is. And the way she was talking, I was expecting her to end the section on this note of I am bisexual and I got over all this internalized homophobia that was brought on by how the very existence of women is over-sexualized, but that is not what happened. I don't know, just like the way she talked about it made it sound like there's compulsory heteronormativity, like that is a thing, but what she was describing sounded more like compulsory homonormativity, which is very much not a thing. I think the idea of it is that we are taught to view women as objects of desire, therefore obviously I look at them as objects of desire, but on the other hand I wouldn't actually want to be with one. And she therefore shows this idea of how women are viewed as objects of desire and how it's such a fucking pervasive idea that she, a not queer person, has to debate whether or not she's queer or not because she finds herself attracted to women because that is what society has taught her. If that is what she was trying to get out, like I get it, I do, but I wish she would have said it in a way that didn't feel like she was trivializing women being attracted to women and queerness, because as a queer person myself it made me feel super uncomfortable. It is very possible that someone will read that section of the book and see themselves in it, and good for them. I hope they find this book, but as for me, I could have gone my whole life without reading that section or really this book at all, so I left it unrated. And the last book I finished during that week of reading was Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. Technically I finished this on day 8, not day 7, which was my cutoff of reading Libro FM audiobooks, but I'm still counting it. This is a YA Peter Pan retelling that focuses on grief, and it has been a couple weeks since I finished this book, and holding a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you more about it than that. I just it hasn't stuck with me. But what I can say is that I really enjoyed it when I read it, and I rated it 4 stars after I finished. It's just I can't remember much about it now. The only other thing that I remember is that I didn't like the narrator, which says a lot for me because usually I have no problems with narrators. I'm very easy to please when it comes to narrators, but this one, their narration style was a bit choppy, that like even when I bumped it up to 2 times speed, I could still feel these like stops and goes in the narrations, and I didn't like it. So yeah, that is it for my week of concentrating on Libro FM audiobooks, and I read 4 of them during that week, which I think is pretty good. They weren't all winners, but I still had a good time. If you read any of these books, come let me know in the comments what you thought about them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.